Welcome to FBB Forum. If you like this content, please be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow on Instagram. I'm very pleased to welcome the stunning IFBB Pro Women's Physique competitor, Shannon Seeley, to the podcast. Shannon earned her pro card at the North Americans in 2023, where she won her class and the overall. Shannon also hosts a great new podcast on women's bodybuilding called Girls in Gear with Tommy Stiles. Stay tuned to find out more about her future plans. And welcome, Shannon. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be a guest on here.
Thank
I'm usually
you.
doing the hosting, so it's nice to be able to get interviewed today.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Like I mentioned earlier, I've just been a big fan of yours for years, and I was very, very happy you got your pro card because I know you've been working on it for a while. So, yeah, you got a great physique and great look.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And your podcast is great too. I definitely encourage everybody to check it out. I know y'all have had a few guests already, like Emily Schubert and Paige Sabidra.
Mhm.
And I know you have more guests coming, so I'm excited to see more episodes.
Yeah, it's exciting to just build it and see where it goes. So it's still new to us. It's only 8 episodes in, but I'm hoping people will, enjoy the content that we're putting out.
Oh, I think y'all are doing a great job. I like you get the guests to open up about PEDs and health, and I think those are some important topics for especially up and coming competitors to hear about.
Oh yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we did this podcast. And for those who don't know, this podcast is literally female based about performance enhancing drugs, and we're doing this just to bring knowledge and awareness because the sport is blossoming. So many more females are coming up, and they need to know what they're getting into. And it's not supposed to be scary and a tactic to get them away. It's just to bring more knowledge and awareness so we can keep the sport alive. We can keep that femininity, and we can just make sure everyone's playing, doing a smart job of staying healthy in the sport. So I just felt like that was a good direction to go. And I don't, there's a stigma that people can't talk about it, but I think it's very important to talk about it and discuss this.
I think that's awesome. I think that's a real public service to the bodybuilding world because I think does need to be more discussion about it and more kind of candid discussion. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um, so my first few questions are about how you got started in bodybuilding, and I was wondering if you had an athletic or a sports background before you started.
Yeah. And for those who follow me a long time know that before bodybuilding, I was a competitive runner. I ran cross country and track from probably the age of 5 all the way up until college. That was my dream. I wanted to run for the Olympic team, Team USA. I had the qualifying times for it. Everything was going great, college scholarships. And so that's literally what I did my entire high school career. Bodybuilding was not something that I did. I didn't like weightlifting. My senior year of high school, after getting all those scholarships and having such a great running career, I broke my leg my senior year playing flag football in high school, and it was a severe breakage enough that it shattered my bone. I had a compound fracture to my leg, and it took me out for the entire season of my senior year. And the rehabilitation for that was quite tedious, and I had lost a lot of muscle. I lost a lot of muscle memory from my running, and I found myself in the gym trying to bring my strength back, and that's where I found the sport of bodybuilding.
Oh, that's terrific. Oh man, I can't imagine compound fracture. It must have been awful. I
Yeah,
bet
it
it's
definitely was a blessing in disguise. Look at this. I never would have been in the sport of bodybuilding whatsoever if I wouldn't have broken my leg.
Sure, that's a good point. Yeah, that's true. Boy, that must have been yeah, gosh, that's really it kind of worked out in your favor, I think, because you do such a good job with bodybuilding and being on stage.
I don't think anybody in the sport is sad that I transitioned to bodybuilding from running because I would never be in this sport without that injury. So most people have that reaction where you do. They're like, "Yeah, so I'm so sad that that happened."
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And the pain goes away after a while, Yeah. Oh man. Now, I was curious in terms of getting started in bodybuilding, who convinced you to do your first contest and kind of got you interested in the sport?
It was actually one of the trainers. So I don't know back in the day if anyone remembers Snap Fitness, but that was my first gym I ever joined was a Snap Fitness. And there was a trainer there that kept telling me that I looked similar to DLB. Now at the time I was always a muscular build, so I always had was genetically blessed to have a little bit more fuller muscle bellies. And I had short black hair at the time. So somebody said I looked like Dana Lynn Bailey, this trainer did. And I didn't know who that was. So I looked it up, and I knew what female bodybuilders were, but it was never my thing. Like personally, back in the day, I did not like the look. I didn't think they were attractive. It was not my thing. So when I saw this picture of DLB, I was like, oh wow, this is a whole different physique structure than I'm used to seeing. But I loved it. And she was so feminine and beautiful. And I was like, wow, I love it. And he was like, you can do a show and just see. There's one coming up in, I don't know, a year. Why don't you prep for it? And I didn't know anything about it, so he kind of helped me like prep for my first show, and I jumped on stage to get my feet wet and won the overall, and that was it. And fell in love with the sport, and that's it. I mean, at 2014, I stepped on stage for my first bodybuilding show, and I have been competing ever since.
Wow, that's so cool. That's terrific. Yeah, Dana Lynn Bailey really has inspired so many people, and I
Mhm.
think she's the number one person who is discussed on this show as an inspiration. And
Yeah.
I would love to see her compete again. I don't know if she ever will, but that'd be great.
Yeah, I would love to see her compete again. I will say this, and it's the harsh truth is if she brought the physique that she had at the Olympia, she would not place at this time. The conditioning and the criteria has changed so much, but I
Yeah,
still believe she has the most beautiful. I mean, I wish the criteria was the same. Her physique is absolutely beautiful. And if she ever did compete again, it would probably be like everyone would be at that show. We'll just say that because that would just be like an amazing comeback.
I agree. Yeah, that would be awesome. Her and Danny Reardon, I think,
Yes.
are great representatives of the sport. And unfortunately, she's not competing anymore either.
No.
Now, I was curious, do you have another fitness role model that you look up to currently?
It's actually funny is, I'm a huge fan of Emily Schubert. We actually did we did the first show together. My first show with Emily I ever did was when she went pro, and I placed second against her, but I was fangirling from the start just with the physique she brought. So I've always vicariously followed Emily Schubert, just for her physique and her aesthetics and her conditioning. And then Michaela Aycock. I mean, Michaela, we've seen her go from physique to bodybuilding, and she's just a great ambassador for the sport. So those two are my top two that I always follow that are currently competing. And then back in the day when Jill Blondin, I don't think her last name was Blonde at the time, she was my idol. She no longer competes, but her conditioning and the level of symmetry that she could bring was extraordinary. So those three, just the grainy, hard level conditioning, I just think that they have phenomenal physiques for the sport, and I've always looked up to them.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Emily and Michaela, especially the progress they've made in the sport, and if you look at their before and after pictures, it's incredible and how much they've grown. And Emily especially, I feel Emily's a little underrated. I just think she's got such a
I
great look.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
when she
her,
first started it, when she went pro, I was like, "She is not getting the recognition she deserves," and thank goodness now she has, like, the almost, like on Instagram, when she posts her pictures, people are like, "Oh, shit, like, look at what she brings," and I think she's starting to slowly trickle into people are like, "You need to watch her. She is going to be something in the sport," and you don't know if it's gonna be for women's physique or bodybuilding. I really think it's gonna be bodybuilding, and she is going to be the new, I feel like, criteria of what women's bodybuilders should look like.
I agree. I think you're right. I think you and her are like the queen of abs too. Y'all have like the best abs. Now I was curious, was it tough for you when you first got up on stage in a bikini? Was it kind of nerve-wracking, or were you comfortable because you already had the athletic background with track and field?
I wasn't nervous for bikini per se. I was more nervous because it's your first show and you don't know how the structure is gonna be or the posing. And I remember I wasn't nervous about stepping on stage with the bikini. I was more nervous making sure I was hitting my poses because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So I mean, I'm on stage and I don't know at that time, like I did not realize how important posing was. So I only have practiced a handful of times. So I remember being on stage trying to like hit my poses and not knowing and then like looking over at the girls to see what they were hitting.
Oh,
So that was more for me. It was just like, oh my gosh. Like it was, I don't know how I won the overall for that show, but it was just a mess. But that was more the embarrassing, nerve-wracking was getting the posing right.
sure. Yeah, but over time, I'm sure you got more comfortable on stage. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's when I did want to give another shout out to Emily because I think her posing is just crazy good. It's amazing how smooth she is and she flows so
Yeah.
well. Yeah. Your posing
Yeah.
is good too.
Emily, I hope Emily watches this because she's gonna be like, oh, Shannon's talking about me again.
Oh, she deserves a lot of praise though. She's so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned her too. Now, so congrats on earning your pro card in 2023 at North Americans. And I bet that was a relief since you'd been competing for 10 years. I know you were kind of coming close, knocking at the door for a while. How did it feel to win your pro card?
It was, I will say I was relieved, I was excited. I mean, this North American show in 2023, this was definitely gonna be my make it or break it point because previously I had placed top 2 and 2 additional pro qualifiers before that, and top 5. Out of the total 7 national shows, I placed top 5 or top 2, in 5 of them. So, and coming back from North Americans in 2022 when I placed 2nd, I really was like, "I'm so close." I was like, "I just have to keep, just keep pushing." And, I remember coming off stage in 2022, and I was a little disheartened and, we all get a little bit, like, heartbroken a little bit when we don't get what we expected. Um, but I just remember, like, just going, "Okay, like, what did I do differently? What can I improve?" And my goal for that 2022 to 2023 was, I wanna make sure that this is never gonna happen again. Like, next time I step on stage, they're gonna notice me. They're gonna know right away I'm the winner, and there's gonna be no comparison. And so, stepping on stage in 2023, I mean, if you watch the stage videos or even look at the pictures, the confidence and the amount of polish physique that I brought is night and day than anything I've ever brought. And I have a lot to thank because I have an anonymous donor, who sponsors me for a lot of my shows, and he actually designed my entire look for this past show that I never have worn my hair in a ponytail. I've never would pick purple for a suit color. Um, and I'm glad that he did because it was almost like I felt more myself. I wear my hair up all the time, but I've never competed with my hair up. I just have always been like, no, it's not feminine enough. And I felt more comfortable and more relaxed. And you can literally see it in any of the stage videos or photos. Like it was just the most comfortable that I ever been. And I enjoyed it so much.
Wow, that's terrific. That's great about the donor too.
Yeah.
And given the advice, yeah, I think the hair up is good because you run the risk of your hair covering up your physique and just not
Yep.
being able to really get a full picture of your physique.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my biggest stress all the time too, is when I know I'm gonna wear my hair down, then I'm constantly posing my entire prep season, making sure I'm flipping my hair back so you can see the lines of my, in my back. And I do see that a lot. That's one of the biggest things is I see women who have beautiful physique structures and they forget to move their hair. And I'm like, oh no, you can't even see your traps or you can't see your lower back because your hair's too long. So
Yeah.
I think that's really important for women to understand. It's just a little nuance that you wouldn't think about, but when you put it all together, you're like, wow, that could have make or break it if it's, that close between two competitors.
I agree with you. Yeah. It also, I think, shows your symmetry better too, if
Yep.
you can, yeah, because the hair can mess up your whole symmetry look and everything. I bet it was exciting too. You won the overall, so that I was really pleased about that too.
Yeah, it's funny because last year when I was in North Americans and I placed second, it took me probably 2 months, hard months to realize like, okay, it wasn't my time. And I always tell people like it wasn't my time because this 2023 was my time. I could have been, they could have awarded second place pro cards and I would have been happy and going along. But this was so much more meaningful because it was my time. I literally nobody could beat me. Like I'm the top of the top for that pro qualifier. And it really made me earn my place into the pro league. And I think it also made a statement for the pro league, like, hey, she's finally coming. Like, it's her time. Nobody beat her. Like, look out and welcome to the pro league. That's kind of how I thought of it.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, that was definitely your year for sure. Now, do you hope to make your pro debut this year or next year?
So the plan is to do a pro debut sometime in 2025. I personally right now, I don't know if anyone's been following, but since mid-December of 2023, I've been having some severe gut and GI issues. So right now I am in my off season, but I'm supposed to be a lot heavier than I currently am. My body's just not digesting the food properly.
Hmm.
So we are like in a health phase pause right now for my off season just to get my gut and my health back to normal. So I haven't really been actively putting on weight or training as heavy as I can just because my health reasons. So we're
Hmm.
hoping to get this all fixed by March to really have I need 8 to 9 months of solid off season putting on quality muscle before we can even look at shows. And I haven't even gotten to that point where I can put on solid weight yet.
Hmm.
And people listening, think of it this way: like currently I'm 165 pounds. I'm never that light. I'm usually 185 pounds in my off season at this time. So
Wow.
I'm just I'm just dealing with a lot of stress and health issues right now that we're trying to work through. So right now, definitely not 2024, just because the health issues have just deterred a lot more. But we are absolutely hoping for mid 2025 to late 2025, the latest. I will be back on stage next year. It just depends on how long this health issue takes that we have to kind of fix it. And that'll kind of deter our timeline from there.
Very cool. That's exciting. I'm excited for your pro debut. You're going to kill it,
I
I
am
bet.
too.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's good. I think that's often good just generally for you to take a year off because I think the women that do that come back better than ever. Again,
Yeah.
shout out to Emily, but I think she took 2022 off and she really did come back better than ever. And having that full year off, I think really helped her.
Yeah, and I've never taken a full year off. I think I've been competing straight for since 2014, 10 years now, back to back. The only time I took off was when I had my daughter, but I still was dieting down for photo shoots right after, so I still had a cutting diet. So this will be officially like the first year off, and I'm kind of excited to see what damage I can do for the off season, because I'm a little fish again in a big pond, and so I want to make sure that when I step on that pro stage, like I can make I can get noticed.
Sure. I think that's a great idea. I think it's good for you for your career too. So, I was curious, have the judges given you any direct feedback on where you need to improve your physique or presentation?
Yeah, so, positives were they love my presentation, they love my posing, they love my look. What they wanted me to work on is they wanted a tinier waist, so basically, obviously, we can't snatch that in, it's just an illusion, so we're just gonna bring up the back a little bit more and the quads a little bit more to get that V taper even more prominent.
Yeah,
And then just work on conditioning, and obviously, conditioning comes with overtime, and they just want everything a little bit tighter, and that's fair, that's always I mean, every time I get feedback, it's always improve your conditioning. So
sure.
yeah, that's the work is just getting that V taper even more prominent and just making sure for this next prep going forward, like we can make sure we're getting harder and harder each time we present ourselves.
That's terrific. That's very cool. That's exciting. So I think I know what you're going to say, but what's been your favorite bodybuilding show so far and why?
North Americans.
Yeah.
North Americans, and I will say this, so it's one I have done a slew. I've done 7 national shows. So I've been and done a lot of shows around the US. One reason, and it's not just because I went pro at North Americans, I love the structure of North Americans. I love how easy it is because they're not jamming all the competitors into 2 days. It starts on like a Tuesday and goes all the way through Sunday. So it's a very well organized show. You never feel rushed, and that's just for a competitor, the stress level that you want to keep down is so important. And just being in a show, it was the least stressful show I ever have done. Where I have done nationals when it was in Miami, where we had prejudging on Friday and finals on Saturday. So for a competitor,
Mm,
that's extremely stressful because you have to hold that peak and make
yeah.
sure. So I really like the structure of North Americans. And for me, it's one of the closer shows to my home. I don't like to fly because with my prep, I hold a lot of water. So
Hmm.
I try to avoid dry or flying as much as possible just because it does put a damper on the way that I peak.
Hmm.
So that's why I've really enjoyed that show. It's a 5-hour drive from my house. It's right there. It's a really organized structure. And even like the venue and everything, everyone's just a lot more respectful, I feel like, in that one.
That's great. Did you compete at the COVID era one where they were out in the tent?
I competed. So in 2020, I did compete. I did a local show here in Michigan to requalify where we did the tent. And then I didn't do the one, I believe that was University that did the tent. I did Junior USA's in South Carolina during COVID that time. And at that time, we were in a tent outside where they lined us up, and then we would go into the venue, display, and then they take us right back out. And that was a mess too. I mean, the COVID era, like I'm glad that is over because that was horrendous in the bodybuilding industry.
I know.
That really took a toll on me because I prepped for 9 months for that show because they kept kicking and pushing the show back. So that took a toll on my health.
Yeah, that was kind of a crazy time. I remember they had the New York Pro in Tampa that year in 2020,
Yeah.
and which was good as a Tampa resident. But yeah, no, it was such a crazy time, and to have the shows in the tent outside like that was really crazy.
Yeah.
Um, now, my next few questions are about coaching, and I was curious, do you have a prep coach currently?
Yep. So I've been working with Nelson Jones since 2020 is when I started with Nelson Jones. This is going to my 4th year with him. Phenomenal guy. And I'm very happy with my choice of choosing him to work with me for my career.
I've heard he's really good. Uh, and opposing coach too. Do you have an opposing coach?
Nope. I used to work with opposing coach, and unfortunately things didn't work out. And everything that I've done now on stage is just from experience and self-taught. And I honestly am really proud of the presentation I bring. I mean, I got compliments from my feedback from the judges. You're posing strong. It's phenomenal. So that's just one thing that I just self-taught after my posing coach and I didn't work out.
Oh, that's great. No, your
Mhm.
posing is really good. I think you really flow really well on stage, and yeah, and you don't go too fast. I think sometimes the ladies go too fast and you can't really see their physique well up on stage. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I've had that in the past when I first started, when I was first learning how to pose by myself. That was the biggest thing, was slowing down. And now it's like I just have a count in my head. So like even when I'm on stage, like I'm never present in the actual audience. Like I'm on my stage, I'm like, okay, I'm in that 5 count. I got to do this and this. It's all a timing thing, but it works well for me. So
Oh yeah, you do a great job. You really do.
thank you.
Now, what would you say is the most challenging aspect of prep for you?
Um, stress, keeping my stress level down. I'm a type A person, so I'm already high energy, high stress. So for me to get my stress level down, excuse me, it takes a lot for me to be a lot more self-awareness where I'm like, okay, I'm 8 weeks out. What am I doing that's making my heart rate elevated? Like that's my most challenging thing, is also because I'm a go-getter. I personally, like, I run 4 businesses. So, and I love being busy. I'm a mom and I run 4 businesses, but like I like to go, go, go all the time. So for me, that always elevates your stress. And when you're in prep, the lower in calories you get, the higher your cortisol will get elevated with stress, which is a no-no because it helps your body like store fat, which we don't want. Um, so that's been the biggest challenge, is just keeping that stress level low. And I've learned over years me get my stress, but it wasn't easy. And it's not, I mean, I've had peaks and I've had preps where my stress has really destroyed how I look. So
Really? Yeah, I understand. I've talked about this or suggested this to others, but have a new class of coach, like a chill coach, you know. And because I think that that stress and that, yeah, the cortisol can kind of mess you up, and sometimes you just need somebody to calm you down and
yeah,
reevaluate. You know, you're probably looking excellent, looking like a superhero, and your body dysmorphia kicks in, and you're doubting yourself, or so.
yeah,
Yeah, you know what I mean? A chill coach should be good, but I know that'd be more money output too. It'd be flowing to
yeah,
the
yeah.
now and where do you live now? And do you have a supportive bodybuilding community there?
So I'm in Detroit. So Michigan is not the we don't have the biggest name for bodybuilding. And I think it's too is our state isn't really pro. It's not really, we have winter like 6 months out of the year. So it's not like fun. Whereas you look at like the beach towns or like Florida or California where it's more, warm all year and everyone's a little bit more in shape all the time.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's hard because here in Detroit and in Michigan, like our shows are so small, but I will say this is the first year that they are having a Detroit Pro. They're actually hosting their first pro show here. So
Oh
we're
yeah,
hoping to kind of bring a little bit more awareness to it. I mean, we have some great competitors here, like Drea Shaw, Miss Olympia. She lives here in Michigan. Linda Murray, she was from Detroit. So we have a lot of people here that people know by name. But when it
yeah.
comes to the actual community, like in my gym, I'm the only professional or I think there's one other girl. There's one other pro bodybuilder at my gym.
Hmm.
But people don't know people don't know the industry. Like, what's an IFBB Pro? What does that mean? So
Hmm.
it's not as prominent as it would be like, in Florida where I know bodybuilding is very known, or in New York or in California. So I think
Hmm.
it's just really hoping to bring more competitors in with the state. But I mean, even our local shows, they just dropped half the roster of the local shows they used to have just because we haven't been getting the
Hmm.
support. So it's
Really?
a shame, but at the
Hmm.
same time, yeah, it's a shame, but at the same time, like we're hoping over time, maybe this up and coming generation, there's a lot of people that are more interested in bodybuilding. So that's
Hmm.
a positive. So hopefully we can see more people starting to surface into the sport. But at the end of the day, even like, now that I'm a pro, I'm not looking at, I mean, we don't host any pro shows in Michigan. So it's all about travel anyway. So
Yeah, I understand. At least it's good that the Detroit Pro Show is coming, and that'll
Yeah.
be a good start at least. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And y'all have proximity to Canada too, so it gets some of the Canadian
We
competitors to
do.
come.
We do. And
Yeah.
we're close enough to like with Ohio, like the Arnold's there and all that stuff. So we're close enough to some of these other larger areas. Chicago's right there. So we have larger areas. So we're at least all in that little Midwest circle bodybuilding, which is a little bit bigger when you look at like the whole regional area of it.
Sure. No, I think that's really good. And yeah, I like yeah, Chicago is a really good show, as is Pittsburgh, of course, too.
Yep.
Um, I want to skip ahead to this because I want to make sure I address this question, but how long have you produced the Girls in Gear podcast? And I like how you and Tommy kind of get your guests to open up about PEDs and health, but yeah, tell me about the podcast.
We started the podcast. So it actually is funny. So Tommy and I have been friends for a long time. Like we started our bodybuilding journey together. We used to be training partners back in the day. He's from Michigan. And so we kept in contact and he has his own podcast. So right after I won the overall for North Americans, he called me and said, "Hey, I want you to do my podcast. Let's talk about this." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then he's like, "I want to discuss some stuff with you." And I'm like, "Okay." So we did our podcast. And then after he's like, "Shannon," he's like, "I want to do a podcast." He's like, "And I want it to be girl based and I want you to host it because you've been very open on your Instagram about your PEDs and you're very transparent." And he's like, "I need somebody that's like you, high energy, that can bring the voice, of women's physique or women's bodybuilding physique and the ins and outs of it, but not scare people away from it." So
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, T, let's try it and see how it goes." And we did, and it's been great. Now we're just kind of battling the YouTube card, like, is our channel gonna get shut down because of what we're discussing? So now we're just trying to play that frame and make sure that we're following the right protocols. And so it's great that we're being open, but a lot of social media platforms don't love that. So now we're just kind of waiting to see, are we gonna get term violations, all that stuff. But um I'm really proud of what we've done with it. And I think that as it takes off and more females start listening to it, it's just a great educational, little podcast that I want. And I want competitors to feel comfortable because back in the day, I didn't talk about my usage because I was afraid I was going to get in trouble. It wasn't something talked about. And now I'm being able to find these pros and be like, yes, this is what I'm taking. This is why I'm taking it. These are the side effects that I experience. And it's just good to show what we as a female bodybuilding community, what we experience. And I think that just really needs to be known because males talk about it all the time, but we are completely different than males. So just bringing that awareness and letting women know it's okay, or if you have questions, reach out and ask somebody who's knowledgeable, that's a female that knows the ins and outs of the sport. And just it's almost like a kind of like information thing, but it's also a comfort thing. Like, hey, if you have questions, message me, let me know. It's like basically like the bodybuilding support for the females of the sport if they have issues.
Oh, I think that's terrific. I really think you guys do a good job with the podcast too. And you're not, yeah, you make the guests feel comfortable and and I'm sure you kind of brief them in advance.
Yeah, just like you, it's very, we always discuss, what are you okay with talking about? What are you not okay with? Obviously, like we talk about stuff that we try to get guests that are going to be very transparent because I don't want to take a lot away from it. So I want it basically is, if you're taking stuff, I want you to be open talking about it and talk about your side effects. And this is a place like we're girls, we have embarrassing side effects sometimes. We might have butt acne or we might just lose our boobs or anything like that. And it's stuff that we don't talk about openly on social media. So it's something that, hey, you can relate and be like, wow, I know 15 other girls that have this, but they're afraid to talk about it. And it's a lot easier to be like, oh, we're all experiencing it. It's very normal. And we're just trying to normalize that this is normal in the sport. You're gonna run it. Everyone takes compounds when you get into that larger professional level, and these are what you're gonna have to experience. And it's all
Mhm.
about how you play the cards. Because I'm a huge advocate for health too. Obviously, as a mom, like I want to be a health advocate and be like, it's okay, you can do this, and be a mom. You have to be smart about it.
I think that's terrific. No, that's really good. I think it's especially for up and coming competitors, that's providing a real service, I think. So
Yeah.
to be so transparent like that. I did want to ask you about your daughter too. How old is she?
My daughter is 4. So for those of you who don't, most people don't know I have a daughter because I don't post about it. I keep my family life pretty private, but I do have a 4-year-old. I was pregnant in 2018, gave birth to her in 2019. So I literally came off Junior USA's in 2018, where I placed second to Emily Schubert. And then I got pregnant in the fall and then gave birth to her in May of 2019 and then cut down for a photo shoot again. So it was like boom, boom, boom.
That's impressive. Yeah. I was wondering if you would come back to compete again, and I was pleased to see that you did. But was that tough being and because of the hormone changes and just also the time suck of having a kid? I have my own daughter, and I know when they're babies, especially, it takes a lot of time, but it's very rewarding, of course. I love kids.
Yeah. It was I didn't know. So I knew I wanted to be a mom. When I had my daughter, I was nervous the same like I was nervous how my body was gonna respond. And I was like, either this is gonna be a really great thing or it's gonna be really horrible. Because I've seen competitors that have had children come back and they look phenomenal. And then I've also seen competitors that have had children and they look horrible when they come back. So it was
Mhm.
like, oh gosh, like what is gonna happen? And no, it went really well. Honestly, like I feel like it actually helped me a little bit.
Mm.
I feel like I look better. I feel like because I got pregnant and I was still trying to actively I wanted to actively compete, I was really, really self-aware of like how much weight I was putting on. I trained my entire time during my pregnancy. I was really mindful of like what foods I was eating and stuff. So I didn't put on a tremendous amount of weight. So I was able to lose the weight. I mean, I put on 22 pounds, I think, total for my pregnancy, and I lost 24 when I gave her. So it was really
Mm.
a blessing that I was able to do that. And then going back to it, like I felt great. Like I mean, I was back in shape within 4 months. And lucky for me, and most people don't have that when I gave birth to her, it was 2019. So I was trying to get in shape for photo shoots. So by the end of 2019, I was in very good shape. And then COVID hit. So the blessing was I was in prep still during 2020, but I was home most of the time. So I got to experience all that stuff with my daughter. Besides prep, I
Oh,
didn't have anything else to do. So I was at home
yeah.
with her all the time. So I had that first
Nice.
full year basically at home with her. I saw her first steps, her first words. So if COVID didn't happen, I wouldn't have gotten to experience that. So I will say that was a
Mm.
big blessing for me that COVID did happen because I got a lot more family time and I didn't miss out on the first years of stuff.
That's terrific. Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Especially that first year and those milestones are really, really cool. And yeah, kids are wonderful just watching them grow. And um,
Yeah.
it's weird, kind of weird watching this little mini version of you, grow up and figure things out and be inquisitive. It's so cute.
Yeah. Yep.
That's terrific. We are almost out of time. Let me just ask you just real quick. And do you ever find yourself be target of like fit shaming? Because there's all these
Oh yeah.
trolls, and yeah, how do you deal with the trolls?
Nowadays I don't care anymore. I think it's just giving us more engagement to my platform. Back in the day, it was very hard. I will say it devastated me a lot. I didn't understand why people felt the need to bully me. But that's part of being an influencer, being on social media is you're vulnerable, you're putting posts out. And someone told me a long time ago, um any comments negative or positive is just it's you did something that made them want to stop and say something, so that's a positive for you. So I know I just think of it, I'm like, wow, you felt you wanted to waste your time saying something about me. I was like, and I was like, you valued me enough, you hated me enough, or you liked me enough to stop and say something. So now I always just I'm like, wow, what a compliment that you took the time out of your day to say something to me. So I'm just like, any person that's giving me energy, positive or negative, it doesn't bother me anymore because it's you took the time out of your day. Like obviously you felt enough that I was worth it to to give me some of your time. That's how I see
That's terrific. That's a good attitude. I
it.
like that. So we are almost out of time. I'm going to mute myself, but if you would mind saying something and then do a quick flex, I appreciate it. Oh, wait, you got to say something too, because I think if the camera won't go
Oh,
back to you.
oh, okay. There's my muscles. Off season biceps.
You look terrific. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Shannon. And I'll get this posted relatively soon. But it's an honor speaking with you. Like I said, I've been a big fan for many years, and so pleased you got your pro card. So I'm excited for you in 2025.
Thank you.
And keep up the good work with Girls in Gear too. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.